Hello everyone, hope you're doing well and thank you for joining me, whether you're watching live at 5 or you're watching it on playback. Much appreciated. I thought we could have a little chin wag. It's been a while since we've done one of these, probably a couple of weeks, and I always enjoy doing it and interacting with live chat. So you are watching live, please get involved and we'll have a little chin wag. Anyway, last night, like many others around the country, I sat down to watch Leicester City against Everton and I was cheering on the draw, of course. I was delighted to see it finish 2-2. But while watching the game, I couldn't help but think, bear in mind, both teams have their new manager. So Dean Smith versus Sean Dyche. Both managers had twisted during the season. They'd sacked Brendan Rodgers, they'd sacked Frank Lampard, and that's what they had. So they're going into this six-pointer, this relegation battle up against the other team in the relegation battle. It was a must-win for both teams. A point didn't help either of them. A point helped West Ham. It helped Nottingham Forest, gave Leeds a smidgen of hope. But certainly didn't help the two involved last night. But I couldn't help but think David Sullivan would have been watching the game thinking I was right. I'll tell you who wasn't doing that, David Moyes, because the telly was broken. He had no satellite signal, he said, so he wasn't able to watch the game last night. But David Sullivan would have watched last night's game thinking, I got it right. Now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with David Sullivan. It doesn't mean that you have to agree Sullivan was right to keep David Moyes. I'm not even saying I agree with David Sullivan in terms of keeping David Moyes. But about a month ago, he came under pressure, Sullivan, in order to sack David Moyes. And I think that was the first time, because during the World Cup, I don't think there was ever any... I had no doubt that Moyes was going to be here post-World Cup. And there has been a couple of times a few months ago where it was questionable. And Soufal spoke about it when he was on the international duty over in Czech Republic. And he was speaking, saying... the manager was under pressure, he could have lost his job kind of thing. So Sullivan certainly had a decision to make, and, he had all the journalists ringing him up and contacting him. That's why the likes of Jacob Steinberg, etc., were getting quotes from top sources that West Ham to put out there about David Moyes. So Sullivan had a big call to make, and he decided to stick with David Moyes. Today, I think Sullivan would be sitting thinking, looking at the league table, watching that last night, thinking, I got it bang on, actually. Now, what this doesn't mean, because when you look at the shambles at Leeds United right now, Sam Allardyce apparently set to be given the job. And what an absolute shambles that is, because they'd sacked the manager, they sacked Jesse Marsh, got in Avi Gracia, that's not worked out. And now Sam Allardyce. And I get why, by the way, I get why Leeds are going for Sam Allardyce. I completely get it. Because if they continue as they have been, they're getting relegated. They're going down with Southampton, and then it's someone else. So I get why they've decided for one last time to roll the dice and hope that Allardyce can get something out of these 4 games, which obviously includes West Ham at the London Stadium as well. Now, that's not been officially confirmed, but it's out there by all the major in the nose. Phil Hayes, a really good journalist for Leeds United, he's reporting on it. Fabrizio Romano's reporting the same thing, that Allardyce is going in there. Obviously, their sporting director, Orta, he's left as well. So there's definitely changes happening at Leeds United today. So it looks like Sam Allardyce will take charge there, and I do get it. But this is where it's just a reminder that there's no guarantee that sacking your manager works. And this is why I wanted Moyes gone, and I still do in the summer. But even when we discussed Moyes going, I didn't want Rafa Benitez. I would have preferred to have kept David Moyes than get Rafa Benitez in. So it wasn't a case of anyone but Moyes for me. I never got to that point. I know a lot of people did, and I understand it. I was close to it, but I wasn't quite there, because it can go wrong. And in order for it to not go wrong, you've then got to have faith in the person appointing the manager. So that question is, if you sack Moyes, that's fine. But then do you have faith in David Sullivan appointing the correct person to take up? No chance. Absolutely none. So I was a bit scared about the possibility of sacking Moyes. I was also scared about the possibility of retaining David Moyes. It was almost a lose-lose for me rather than a win-win situation. But Sullivan stuck by him. And like I said, Southampton, there's an example of how it can go wrong. Leeds United, a big example of how it can go wrong. Everton, so-so. I thought Dyche would do a lot better than he's done there. I have to say that. Part of me still thinks there's something there that he might just keep them up kind of thing. But the two clubs that look like they're going to have got out of it is ourselves and Nottingham Forest. Now, we're not safe yet. We are not safe yet. I think we need a point, maybe two. And if we had Brentford, Leeds, and Leicester in the next 3 games, I'd be like 99.9% confident. But we don't. We've got Man City, then Man United. So I've got a feeling it's going to get a little bit scary for us before it gets safe for us. But I do think we just need 1 or 2 points. So I'm quite confident we'll stay up. Well, we've got Big Mally here, who is a Leeds fan, said, more confident under Big Sam than I was under Garcia. I completely understand. Like I said, I think you've got to do something. I mean, the lack of direction at that club, though. Take their footballing styles. Bielsa, high press, intensity, gets the ball wide, doesn't mind the wingers in his team. Then you go and get in Jesse Marsh, who preferred it narrow. A bit of a high press, but still narrow. And then you went and got Garcia, sat back a little bit, continued to use the wide players, who Jesse Marsh perhaps wasn't using as much. And then you're looking at Allardyce, it's just low block, no intensity up the pitch whatsoever. They're 4 completely different managers. I mean, Bielsa's here, Allardyce is here, and then the other 2 are sort of in the middle, a bit of a hybrid of the 2. It's just a shambles of a club. But I just watched last night thinking Sullivan is going to be sat there thinking, I've got it right, back in David Moyes. But like I said, just because it can go wrong doesn't mean it would have gone wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean he couldn't have sacked Moyes and got someone else in, and we could have done better than where we are now. We could have been safe by now. We don't know. It's all hypothetical. But I think Sullivan will feel justified with what he's done because of what's going on at the other clubs. Well, 2 reasons. First of all, there's a league table. He'll be looking at that, thinking what the most of us are thinking, which is we're probably going to be okay. A point or 2 and we'll be fine. It looked a bit ropey a month ago, but we're looking fine now. So that's one reason. And like I said, the other reason, Leeds United, Sullivan are looking and go, thank God I did not sack David Moyes, because that's what I'd be going through right now. So yeah, David Sullivan, I think has got it right. But yes, Dan Kelly, perfect example of how you can change and get it right. Aston Villa being the key one there. In some extent, I think Bournemouth is another one that you can change and get it right. Different reasons for sacking Scott Parker. It wasn't results based. It was more club identity and ethos based rather for sacking him because kept mugging off all the players, didn't he? But they brought in O'Neill and they've stuck with him as well, and that's worked out kind of thing. But like I said, now this doesn't mean we've had a good season. This doesn't mean that this season's been brilliant. Nice one, we go again. Like I said, it's still been a really poor season. If we win the Conference League, that turns it into a different season. I think it turns it into a brilliant season. If we stay up and win that cup, I think it becomes a brilliant one. But it doesn't mean the football's been good. It doesn't mean that I want to see it again next season. It just means that we won a trophy, and that is a fantastic occasion. Simple as that, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, we'll take a little look at what you guys are saying in just a second. Before we do, just want to point in the direction of the Hammers Chat Patreon. Link is in the description below, or you can go to patreon.com/Hammers Chat. That ticker thing has been going around for the whole video, and it will for the rest of it. It's the start of the month, the 2nd of the month, so it's the best time to join because you get charged when you join. Then of the 1st of the month, the next month. So if you fancy some more videos, so we do player ratings, we do a breakfast show on the match day. I do an opposition prediction. We've got the Anton Ferdinand podcast, Hammerlytics, a Patreon podcast where our patron is the guest on the Patreon podcast. We do loads of videos over there. A few perks as well. Online store discount at our online store where we sell stuff like those coasters, those books. We sell loads of books over there too. And you get entry into our giveaway. So there's lots of different things. You can support the channel from £3.60 per month. There's 3 tiers. £3.60 is the cheapest one to unlock additional content. Please go to patreon.com/Hammers Chat. Links in the description. And a massive thank you to anyone who does support us because it allows us to do this as a job and produce content every single day on both channels for free, especially at the minute because we don't have any sponsorship. So thank you to all the patrons. Right, let's see what you're all saying then. And let's have a little chat. Frank says, let's get something clear. Moyes was the only choice when they looked to replace him. There was no one else by that point due to Sullivan's dithering in the World Cup. There were loads of better managers. Completely agree with that. Artel says, should have sacked Moyes. I saw this before the World Cup. I don't think we were fine until we passed the 37 points. We could still get dragged in. I think we will a little bit. I do think because I think we will lose. It's possible that come Monday, bank holiday again, we'll be watching because I think there's a lot of teams in the relegation zone playing the Monday. Forest play Southampton. I know that. I think Leeds play. I think Everton play. So there's a good possibility we're going to be squeaky bum time again, because I don't think we're going to pick up more than 1 point in the next 2 games, and that's if we're lucky. So I think it's going to get worse before it gets safe. Dan says, round of applause, manager of the season, contender only beaten, O'Neill, sorry, round of applause, only beaten by Eddie. I completely agree. If Arteta wins the league, possibly, but I think O'Neill's underrated. I've not seen him in any of the conversations, which is mad. Colin Wood says, I think a few of us would have taken Dyche over Moyes at the moment. It looks like it could have been a bad call. I'm one of those people. Colin Wood, I am one of those people. If you offered me 2 months ago, coming out of the January transfer window, if you said to me Dyche or Moyes for the rest of the season, I would have taken Dyche. I would have done. I wouldn't have wanted Dyche beyond the summer. It would have been a short-term contract type thing only. But I would have twisted. Simple as that. Ethan, who was saying for captain next season? Okay, right, everybody, this is it. We'd like to do a community question on this one. So when you're watching live, can you please put captain and then who you think should be the captain? I think it's got to be a new signing. I think in the summer, I think a captain should be on the shopping list. I know it's a bit unusual, but look at Newcastle United, Kevin Trippier, the first signing they made, gave him the captain's armband, and they're benefiting from it. I think sometimes you should buy a captain, and I felt we should have done it in the January transfer window. I thought we should have done it last summer. Sometimes I feel we're lacking a little bit of leadership. So this summer, I think we should buy a new captain, but you guys get involved as well. Mancunian says we won't win anything if we play like we did on Saturday, which is how we played for 95% of our games. Amy, I'm Gio, not Gonzo. Gonzo's not here. Gonzo's usually there. He's not here tonight. It's just me. Do you think Zuma will be fit for the Conference League final if we get past AZ? Well, Moyes said a couple of weeks. I'll be honest with you. No, I'm feeling the worst for Kurt Zuma. There's only a month to go. Not sure. Brendan says no other club has such a binary outcome to the season. Our worst case, out the Conference League relegation. Our best case, win the major trophy. Feast or famine, take your pick. Fantastic comment. Love that. Honestly, nailed it. 100%. Irons, now we're getting into the captains. And Iron says Bowen. Chris says Ward-Prowse. Hey, I like it. Infinitely says captain for Aaron Creswell. Jackie also says Ward-Prowse. Dan says Bowen as well. David says a Gerd. Leo says Fabianski. Brian also says James Ward-Prowse. Colin Wood says Zuma if he hadn't kicked the cat. A Gerd says Gavin. Mike thinks Fanals is captain material. We can get his form going. Callum says a Gerd. A Gerd says Artel. Dan says buy a captain, but if you had to pick someone, it would be Jared Bowen. Chris also agrees about buying a captain. Spooky says a Gerd, and a lot of calls for a Gerd. Ivan says Suchet with a lot of laughing emojis. I'm going to suggest that he's taking the mic there. Adam says he would go with Jared Bowen, but wouldn't mind a chance on Paqueta. Nick says a Gerd looks to dictate on the pitch, so he could be the captain. I've got hesitations with Near for Gerd as captain, in all honesty. When I think there's been a lot of issues with communication as far as he's concerned. Now, I actually thought it was him and Areola used to argue at least once a game. Them two would argue, and I thought it was an issue between those two. But we played not long ago. I can't remember who it was. And a Gerd let it bounce, and he was sort of like waiting for the keeper to come get it. It was Fabianski, and Fabianski didn't come, so Gerd had to belt it out. It was Bournemouth, and the reason I remember it was Bournemouth is because Declan Rice scored and then had a word with a Gerd in the celebrations of, say, you need to sort that out up there kind of thing. So it's put me off a Gerd as captain. In all honesty, it makes me worried. I think he's often rowing with people, or he's the common denominator when there's a lack of communication in the back four. He's usually involved somewhere, and I don't think that's a good thing. David says Flynn Downs as captain. Edward says Sufal. Sumo's questioning Bowen or recommending Bowen. I'm not too sure. Anthony says Ogbonna if he is here. Iron says Aguero needs to focus on being a centre-back. Never mind a captain. Depan says Paqueta. as captain. And GCP also thinks we should be buying one as well. Peter says, do you not think it'd be advantage for AZ Alkmaar not playing for 2 weeks until the 6th of May? I think there's disadvantages and advantages to both. Obviously, they'll be well rested, but you can lose that march sharpness, can't you? I think sometimes we see it a lot, sometimes with us, if our players come back after international break. I think sometimes the players that haven't been away for the international break are the ones that look a little bit rusty. So there's advantages and disadvantages to not playing, but I tell you what, there's very few advantages to playing this many games. I think there's the perfect fixture list, if you like, is somewhere in the middle of our situations. But AZ do play Ajax in between their game, in between our semi-finals. We've got Brentford, they've got Ajax, which is it's a must-win game for them actually, because their league's going really well, so they're in contention for getting European football for next season, regardless of the outcome of this competition. So they might need to get something against Ajax. So it's not an easy one for them. They've got sort of 3 important games in the space of 8 days, so it'll be interesting. And Keenan says a Gerd is inconsistent. Paul says we've got a lack of leaders. Stephen says Sufalo or Fernals for captain. Jibster says Creswell would be if it weren't for injuries. I think he would be. I think Creswell would be the club captain. I think it's possible to do that without playing it all the time. We saw it with Mark Noble. We saw it at Swansea City with Gary Monk. Gary Monk. I always go back to that because that's the first time I realised that you can be like a club captain and the person that captains on a Saturday is different. So Gary Monk was Swansea captain and Ashley Williams was the captain on the pitch, and everybody just said Ashley Williams was captain, but he wasn't. It was actually Gary Monk. It's just that he didn't play. So that's always stuck in there. So that's why I always say it. There was someone saying get off the fence, and I know what it was about, and I'm happy to answer it. Here we go. Who do we think is going down? Don't sit on the fence. Southampton, Leeds. I can't remember who I said the other day. I'm not. I don't want to. I did a video the other day, and I'm not really changing from that. I think Everton will do it. I think their last 2 games just allow them to get out of it. So I'm going to say Leicester, Southampton, Leeds, and Leicester. I think they're going. That's who I think shall get relegated. Adrian says, given Moyes' comments about bedding in too many players this year, I'm concerned that we'll end up holding on to players that really should be moved on, and there are a number that really should. I mean, we've got a difficult summer coming up. Doesn't matter what league we're in, we've got a difficult summer. There's players out of contract. There's players that need to be moved on, as Adrian said. And last summer, we struggled implementing 8 new signings. We're going to have 8 new signings again. That largely depends on what league we're in, but also do we have European football? Now, it's possible that it could be the Championship of European football, which is difficult. But if we stay up but we don't win the Conference League, I think we can actually get rid of, say, 8 players, but only bring in 5 or 6. We won't need such a big squad. So planning for the summer at the minute must be quite difficult for West Ham. Yeah, I thought I did say Leicester because I think Everton's last 2 games are against teams that will be safe. Bournemouth's one of them. You've got to be winning that, surely. So I've Leicester. Zachary says Southampton, Everton, and Leeds. Matt Cooney says doesn't fancy going to Leicester last game and needing a point. Cyber Leader says Southampton, Everton, and Forest, hopefully. Peter says get Harrison from Leeds. One player that actually cares that there was a video going around of the Leeds players just walking through a hotel and not really interacting. There was this kid wanting to meet all these idols, and all the players just walked past him, headphones on and stuff. And I've seen the kid and his fathers come out after saying, "Oh no, there was Leeds players that stopped and interacted. It's just not on the footage." But there was also a photo that didn't get as much publicity. Harrison after the game at the weekend, he was just 10 minutes after full time. He just sat in the dugout, and I've seen a lot of Leeds fans saying he actually cares. He will run through a brick wall for that club, whereas the rest of them, some of the other players, they just don't care. They've given up. They're not really that invested in the club or the fan base, whereas Harrison actually does. And I like that. The Moyes MOT test is getting ticked here, isn't it? Right, a couple more comments, then I'm going to disappear. I'm not making this one late one. David says Everton, Southampton, and Leeds to go down. Mike reckons Southampton, Everton, and Forest. Anthony says Southampton, Forest, and Leeds to get relegated. While Mark says Southampton, Leeds, and Forest to go down as well. Long live the bowler. Wants to see Earthy in the team. Yes, and he scored for the under-21s, which was good. Good goal. Good played by Obama, played him in. The under-18s linking up for the under-21s as well. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there, actually. I was only doing a short one tonight. I don't want to be here all night, or you don't want me here all night either. Like I said, if you could consider joining our Patreon, please do go to patreon.com/Hammers Chat. Check out the link below. It really helps this channel out a lot more than you could possibly imagine, especially at the minute. We've not got any sponsors, so it allows us to create content every single day. Link in the description, but you get more videos, get loads more Hammers Chat videos. Catch you in a bit.